right, welcome back to the Chappy Bengals Podcast. It's been a brief vacation for us over here. I think we needed a week to collect ourselves here, Chappy.
Yeah.
For the fact that we got to watch the Chiefs in a third consecutive Super Bowl. Sorry, guys. We had to leave you on standby for a second there. But, Chappy, how you feeling, man? Back on the pod, ready to talk some ball?
Yeah, if anything about my current appearance says anything, it is fly, Eagles, fly, baby. We're back. We're talking football again.
If you guys can't see, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're listening on Spotify here. Jeff's rocking the throwback Eagles jersey. Not even Zach Ertz. It's Brent Selleck on the back of this
baby.
Thing. Talk about a relic, man. But you got to bust it out because we're all going anti-Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll dive into that stuff as we get there. But
absolutely.
Before we even get into talking football here, man, Jeff, me and you kind of talked about this a little bit. Talk about the mega blockbuster trade that happened in the NBA. Mr. Luka Doncic going over for Anthony Davis. Man, I don't know if there's been a bigger trade in the history of professional sports, but this has got to be up
a wild
there for
one
sure.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely up there. I was I don't know what time that came through. It had to be around midnight here locally, and it was like
you posted about it. I saw that.
I was like, holy shit! I was like, what just happened? Like, I'm going through and I'm thinking like Shams, who's like obviously like the replacement to Woj of the bombs that used to drop in the NBA landscape for trades, and I'm looking at this and going, he's got to be hacked. Like, he's got to be hacked. There's no way that that's real. Like, there's no way that this can be a real trade right now that's dropping at midnight. Obviously, it was like whatever time it was in LA. But I was like, what the fuck just occurred? And you know what was the funniest thing was all the priceless like reactions of the players across the NBA. That were like, what just happened? Yeah. Like on the bench, you see the reactions, like
the Suns, the reactions,
from, like, KD. Like what just happened? And then KD obviously responded too, and just saying like, yo, like this is why you expect loyalty from us, but you don't give that same, credit back. And I think that's a fair statement. Like I know that,
of course,
like at the end of the day, it's a business, and the players in the NBA are treating it more like that than any other fucking team, any other league out there. Like, they're going for theirs, and they're getting their pay, they're getting money, they're doing what they're doing. But it's like ridiculous to see and expect anything else from these guys when something like this can drop at any minute, at any moment. And speaking from personal experience from the Raptors, we know how that works out too. Like, you had DeMar DeRozan, who literally said, "Don't worry, Toronto, I got us," in a tweet after the deal went down with Bosch, and then just gets shipped aside. And that same team that he led for how many years goes out with Kawhi. Now, granted, it's Kawhi, and a healthy, managed Kawhi at that, and they go and win the chip. So it is a business, and it was just wild to see. Like, they came through, and it's been reports that like conditioning issues. But then I saw in another thing today that he had actually played now combined playoffs plus regular seasons, but the most minutes of any other player in the league last year.
Really?
Which is crazy. Yeah, they had Tatum. They had the whole crew, right? Of like, obviously playoff minutes matter. You're going the further the distance. But as far as it goes, like, he played more minutes than Jason Tatum. So, like, it's crazy to say conditioning was a problem.
It is wild. So this is what I want to ask you first so that we can kind of dissect this quick. I'm seeing a lot of back and forth about people rationalizing this trade, and like immediate thoughts are, you don't just dish, someone in their prime, the caliber that Luka is. It's unheard of. But for them to do that, now I'm hearing arguments for the Anthony Davis side of things, for like the immediate for the team. Like, kind of rationalize this for us and for the fans out there that may not know the NBA as well. Kind of break it down from your perspective.
Yeah, so the biggest thing from not even the conditioning, but there's other stuff coming out about his defensive play and definitely just one side of the ball. We even got chirped in our post that we did. And funny enough, we'd say about not having a full scope of, hearing both sides of it. I think there's 16,000 people on our poll that legitimately thinks LA won this deal. So I'm not sure how much the teams still think that. But I honestly was bridged on the side of the Anthony Davis because there's an immediate defensive impact. There's a big body. They already have that outside scoring talent. And the NBA is about outside scoring talent, right? Like the game has changed to a 3-point game. And so every single time that you get that person that can do both or all of it with a Luka, that's just a massive deal, right? And Anthony Davis 6 years ago would be considered a generational talent. So, and on both sides of the ball, just has really been dealt with a lot of injury concerns and stuff over that. And if you've ever bet on Anthony Davis, it's the most frustrating thing to do in the world. So don't ever bet his rebounds because it just won't come through for you, even though you think it might. But there's just, when it comes to that deal, I think the immediate winning scenario comes down to Dallas just because it benefits them more on the inside and the presence that Anthony Davis can have. And they already have that outside pressure. And I think there's a better defensive team. And if anything kind of goes to show from the Luka Doncic showing from last championship was that maybe conditioning was a problem from all those minutes. And he gave up on a lot of plays and just didn't play well defensively. So I don't think that the Lakers are as big a winner in this as you might see just immediately. But down the road, this will definitely play its course for them. But in the next 2 to 3 years, I honestly am a little confused on what they're trying to capitalize. Maybe just LeBron's last 2 years, probably in the league, if he plays for 2 more years. And then they're just ready to transition,
too, right?
Yeah, to Luka for the next 10. But it's very interesting to hear that 350 was the supermax deal that he could have signed for next this season. And LA is going to give that to him. There's no shot that they don't. That's committed money for sure, guaranteed. They might as well sign it tomorrow.
But so I saw that he doesn't qualify after the trade.
He won't.
How does that work?
So basically, the supermax deals, they work if the team you're playing for. So we could have offered Kawhi a supermax deal rather than the other teams that have a bidding war for him. So it's a little bit of a lesser contract that you go if you go to a different team, but then you can extend max extension and do that, which could then get you the money. So you can sign for a smaller deal and then sign for a huge extension. So it just kind of, it's the way that it's structured within the NBA.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Fuck.
Crazy though. Wild deal.
Did I just see that they play like tomorrow night? I think
and that was the other crazy part is, I don't know if this is real or not. I haven't seen the reports on his injury status, but he was supposed to be out for like a month. And then I just saw Doncic is pulling a James Harden. And what that means is basically he's wearing a fat suit, everybody. He's just going to come out and play the second he gets there. Which maybe that's the case. Maybe that's how he felt. I don't know.
Oh, man, crazy. That would be wicked. That would be wicked to see. Yeah, man. This is what it's all about. It's just, you couldn't see this one coming, and wow. Yeah. The league dropped it on our head, and that was wicked. So that's cool. This is going to be interesting to see how that plays out, but it's nice to see the stories for each side and the takes from people, seeing how both teams essentially, there's going to be winning on each side of this trade. Whereas initially, the first thought was, wow, how do you have the balls to move a piece like Luka? Just gave my head a shake at the start. But wild. So after that, now we're going to talk some football. And I think before we get into football, first thing, did you see the Pro Bowl last night at all? Did you watch the Pro Bowl games?
I didn't check it at all. I just haven't watched the Pro Bowl I'll watch a bit of the skills when it comes on just because it's kind of fun. But the Pro Bowl to me, just like any other All-Star game, is just such a fucking farce against the actual talent of the league. So
it is, and it's unfortunate because the Pro Bowl was once upon a time, quite the event. It was pretty cool to watch. I mean, maybe that's just because I was a child watching it at the time.
Yeah, that's probably it.
That's probably why. Yeah. But I felt
scoring so much.
Yeah, I felt like there's a little bit more to it. I don't know. I'm not sure, but watching it now as an adult, I know where we're at with flag football and stuff. It's a completely different showing. Yeah. And I know it's for the children. But yeah, I watched it and I was just like, damn, I think I just remember watching Burrow, and I'm like, fuck, this guy is probably like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Aside, like, the quarterbacks were Russell Wilson and Drake May on the AFC side because Josh Allen and Lamar didn't even show up. And I'm like, oh, God. Well, at least Joe's doing good PR, showing up there, talking about how the Bengals got to sign all their players. So I like that. But
fair.
Sad showing from the Pro Bowl. It kind of is what it is at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
But now let's kind of get into, I guess, the matchups. Actually, before we do that, we have some brackets we got to review here.
We do have some brackets, yeah.
We got to take a look at our picks. And I just... Do you remember who I took to be in the Super Bowl here, Jeff?
I do recall. Yeah, I do recall.
I wonder what two teams those could be. Eagles and the Chiefs, baby.
Yeah.
So what do we got here?
Yeah, I love how I came out in this thing. I came out, what was it? Fucking 7 of 8 in the wild card.
Yeah, you're hot out the gate.
Right out the gate. And then just crumbled in division.
Then that's what it's all about. You got to take a look at the long picture here. Now, first we'll kind of review your bracket quick here. I'm going to pull these up on the screen.
Beautiful.
Now, all right, so first one, we got... Well, first of all, your Super Bowl pick was Detroit. They kind of fell on their face there. But you were hot out the gate. You had the AFC, Texans winning, Ravens winning, Bills winning. You had all those picks, and then it kind of got to the conference champions, the divisional and the conference championships, and you slipped up just a little bit. But
just a little bit. Yeah,
I think. See, I went with more of the realistic approach.
You went with the complete. Yes, if it's gonna be, it's gonna be Kansas City.
Yeah,
and I was hoping that Lamar would figure out his life a little bit in the playoffs and go on a nice little run there through those teams. And no, it wasn't the right call, and I've lost a little bit of faith in number 8. I'm not gonna lie. I just it's coming down to it now. The real pressure is on going into next season because a lot of shit coming around in Baltimore. So we'll see how that goes. But same with Detroit, man. Detroit lost their whole fucking coaching staff.
Oh my God, yeah.
I don't know what's gonna. I was gonna pose this question to you. What do you think is more detrimental to a team overall? Losing the amount of coaching that Detroit did in this little past fucking 3 weeks here, or a main player on the roster? Like, say they lost Jahmyr Gibbs. What do you think would have a bigger impact? Jahmyr Gibbs or 10 coaches?
Jahmyr Gibbs is, like, I think we've established how good he fucking is.
Yeah, he's solid. Right? I agree.
He was so the entire offense.
So is Ben Johnson. so are some of these guys, right?
I think it depends positionally, number one. But you look at Detroit, I already had my issues with Jared Goff. And I saw some of the stats pre-Ben Johnson for Jared Goff. And it was not good. And the Detroit Lions offense, not good. So when I look at everybody that they lost, that's a huge part of their culture too. And what they want to do. So I already had my concerns with Jared Goff. I told you that he needs a boatload of talent and a strong supportive cast to have success. And I think they might have whiffed on that opportunity here because things are only going to get more challenging. You just lost all your coaches. And you're on the cusp of having to decide who you're going to sign with some of the players on this team. So, Detroit Lions fans, man, you could just be like the Bengals where we had our window, we got there, and
is it going to be a flash in the pan and then it's done? I don't know. It kind of feels that way just based on like this huge spike. Now, Dan Campbell's a hell of a coach. He might just have other people in the wings ready to go, right? There might just be a really solid developmental culture there, and that's what it seems like it is. So I think as much as the loss is for some of these guys, like obviously there was leaders throughout that entire locker room, right? Not just Dan Campbell and not just the players as well feeding from that, but there's something going on in that locker room that obviously breeds it. So if it's not these guys today, maybe it's someone tomorrow. So we'll see how this kind of comes up. And where they go with their coaching team. But I honestly, I thought that was a good question to ask because I don't know what to expect of Detroit next year, given all of these changes from a leadership perspective, right? Like if you have a turnover like that in your locker room from top down, like that's a massive thing. Like it changes completely how that team might operate. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and we'll touch more on it when we get into the game here quick. But it's tough, man. It's hard. It's really hard to win this league. So you're going to see kind of some of the stuff they're going to have to go through here.
Yeah.
But on the other end of this bracket, so you had the Lions in Baltimore there. I think that was like everybody would have loved to see that at the end of the day. But
I think America's Super Bowl was Bills Lions, and that didn't happen. And instead, we're getting what we're getting here with your takes. But
yeah. I think I looked at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll take the flashy ones at the start in the wild card because that's where you can get a little bit more of the who knows.
Yeah.
And then we just at the end of the day, you kind of know. I said Philly, I think, is the best team as a whole, and they have clearly shown that, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same reason I took them to go all the way and win the entire thing. Now, when I look at it, I'm just like, okay, the field is tilted Kansas City's way. I don't know what narrative is being spun here, and we'll get into that. I'm not going to dive into that just yet.
Yeah.
But I think this is the team that has the best chance to beat Kansas City because they're so well-rounded, right?
They do, yeah.
So that's why I took them, and just the NFC as a whole, I'm like, Detroit, they had the injuries, so I went Philadelphia. That was just going to be the stronger shot for me. And it panned out. And on the other side, I was like, you know what? I could go with the heart. And it's the same thing I did when I showed you the bet I made. I was like, you know how long I was sitting there with that parlay in hand? And I was just finger over the Buffalo Bills the entire time. And I'm just like, it's not going to happen. I could sit here and pray for it, and I want it to happen, but I'm not going to bet with my heart this time. And I'm just going to take the obvious decision. So I went KC, and here we are. But interesting how those brackets played out. Now, we can get into the matchups. So we'll start with that NFC matchup. It was Eagles-Commanders in the finals here. Not the matchup I think we expected. At the start, it looked like Commanders came out with a great game plan, a couple fourth down conversions, and they looked great. But ultimately, I think it was the turnovers here that kind of, led them to die out. And letting Saquon Barkley go to the house on the first run of the game doesn't exactly help you either, right? So
what a way.
But what are your thoughts kind of after watching that game initially? What was the biggest things that stood out to you?
Well, Washington's clearly not ready.
Not quite.
Not quite. They've still got some room to grow. And that's honestly, I do think that down the road here, this team is going to be a wicked threat. If anything that I did kind of see was, the rise of Jaden Daniels obviously leading into that. Now, they got smoked, but they got smoked for a whole lot of other reasons. We knew that this was a run-heavy team going against a lackluster defense against the run, right? So I don't think if anyone was shocked to see Philly come away with this one and Saquon put up the numbers that he did. I don't know what you were smoking, but you should pass me some. But this is like seriously ridiculous when it comes down to it because Jaden didn't have a terrible game. Right? Like, if you look at the numbers of it, he played a calm, cool, collected game. Like, he was actually, I thought he was pretty decent. Gave up, like, one pick. But overall, like, I honestly think he's a really chill guy. He's just, like, we should put the chill guy meme up for him. Because, seriously, like, there isn't a lot. Now, it's funny, as much as we say that, Jaden kind of went to work here, too. What do we joke about the Super Bowl matchup where Jaden's going to throw for... Jalen is going to throw for 100 yards, and we're all just going to love that.
That was a tweet. It was like somebody
showed up.
Save us from watching Jalen Hurts throw for 100 yards in the Super Bowl.
110 yards, but he had a good game too, right? So this is, but again, this Washington defense. They did this all season long, where they'd put up big points in one game and then just fucking disappear in the next, and I think just Philly knows how to play their opponents so well that it was not shocking to see the results here. And then obviously Saquon's just a fucking beast, man. Like I keep on seeing, and I forever hope that video never dies on the internet, and it won't. It will live on in infamy. But the showing video, and I saw it today again leading up to this. I've seen it a million times.
You're gonna see it forever.
And I was dying. It's like some Philly fan was obviously there. He's like, whoever that guy is that's arguing against showing, or not Philly, for fucking the Giants. And he's like, hire that guy, make him the GM right now. That's the only one with common fucking sense in that room, and
Legit.
it's true. Like,
it is true, and
the one
Giants
kid that
fans are going to eat this one, man. They're going to take it on the chin for a while. Not only that, like I will say this till I'm 6 feet under now. It's how does that GM still have a job? How the fuck does he have a job?
I don't understand this one bit. Like I look at this in every angle, and like it's like he keeps pouring it on. Like Saquon's just like a fucking stepbrother scene. Like, what are you doing? I'm burying you. Like,
legit.
Like seriously, like this is the worst fucking trade. Or not even trade, but fucking like you just let him walk, and it's awful.
It's the worst showing of a general manager in
good judgment
time.
Ever. Yeah.
I don't understand it. If this guy wins a chip, and you got to be the GM of the Giants, I wouldn't even be able to look this guy in the face, man. You let a generational talent go out, and it's not like Saquon goes there and he's a big piece of, like, he has been their team. This dude has been carrying this team.
Yep.
And it's unbelievable to see, and I just want to see him walk away with the ring. So it's wicked to see that. But that's kind of the gist of this game. You saw the Eagles play a full competitive game. Jalen Hurts actually looked pretty good. They had the passing game going. Yeah. They looked the best. They looked the best that they've looked all playoffs, and that's good going into the Super Bowl. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see, people, is the Eagles looking real good here. Now we can bounce over. Fly, Eagles, fly. We can bounce over to that AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, not to talk about all the same controversies and stuff like that, but I think the big takeaway here is, and I'll just, I won't dive into the controversial shit yet, was the fact that the ball was in Josh Allen's hand at the end of the game with the timeouts, plenty of time to go win it. So I can't sit here and say, it was entirely, the refs, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Although, and I'll get your thoughts on how that played out, I did see the bias once again, and there's a reason the narrative is still going on. And we can talk about, what your theories are here going into the Super Bowl, but kind of what was your thoughts on this game initially here?
So it's funny. So I've watched I don't know how many film breakdowns of this game and learned every aspect of what was done, from Spags to McDermott's all-around decisions to go on different plays. But it was interesting to kind of break it down. Obviously, when you get into those situations, you need to capitalize. The one thing I did notice throughout the game was just Josh Allen was repeatedly running the same sneak every fucking chance, and I think that was an opportunity for the Bills. Like, Josh Allen's going to QB sneak on the left-hand side of the fucking gap. Like, it was the same fucking thing every time, and then when the controversial play happened, that was the exact same spot, and we're asking, hey, why did they get stopped? Well, when you do the same thing 20 times in a row, it's kind of shocking not to have it, come around. Other than the tush push that we've seen in Philly work numerous times because of the technique that they're using, this is not the technique that was going to work in that situation. So when you're a defensive coordinator and you're telling your team, hey, just watch for this, right? And on that spot and line it up accordingly, you're kind of running the course of insanity, right? Like doing the same thing over and over again. So I wasn't shocked that play didn't get, pushed, even though we've seen different sideline views and line views. My curiosity was, as a rules change potentially in the future for penalties, is that if you have two line refs and they're spotting the ball, there needs to be something to deter the players from getting in their fucking way of seeing that ball on the line, right? Let alone the fact that the change didn't come out, which was fucking otherworldly on the stupidity of how that play was just spotted in general. But if you watch that play on the two sides of it, both refs get impeded by players. And I would just see
the far ref comes in with the first down spot, and the other guy was behind the line.
And he has to step around too.
Yeah, and then it's funny because you actually see a clip of Leo Chanel, the linebacker for KC, get in the ref's face there quickly and like mutter something to him, and it's just,
I'll pay you after the game.
Yeah, like the shit that goes into it. Like I would just love
but
to hear.
They got to do something about that, man. Like you can't impede my vision when I'm going to spot the fucking ball when the play is
trying
still
to walk the line
while you're trying to walk the same line. And if you watch it, you literally both players get in the way of the ref and both stand there for a second. And so it's like there's got to be something that they put in place to either. We talk about robot umpires in fucking baseball. We talk about Hawkeye and fucking tennis. And I know that they tested this out in the preseason. So it's like, at what point do you start to use technology to the advantage? The other thing is just like the fact that we had 6 different views come through after the fact, but we couldn't get that right in the fucking middle of the game is ridiculous to me.
It is.
So like that play was a judgment call, you know, that someone made. Otherwise, I don't know, like that and the Worthy catch, which we understand these things go to the offense on a tie, but I still don't understand from a possession view.
The guy didn't even have it in his hands.
If that doesn't exist, regardless if he caught it with another defender on the ball or not, like possession rules all. So regardless of that situation, that's where I was like, I don't know what the fuck's happening here. Like I'm looking at that, I'm going, okay, I get it. It's somewhat of a tie, like maybe, and then it falls into his hands. I said, but what cushions the fucking ball at this point?
Yeah.
Like and that's what people are irate about. And it's those moments, and you know the history behind this, and then you have it go the other way every single time, and it's just getting to a point where you're like, I think, you know, we saw boycott Super Bowl. No one's gonna fucking do that. Good luck. Nice try. And that's the unfortunate part. But
that's the thing.
Yeah, like
that's where we're
at,
it, right?
They get it.
So, man, after I watched that, and you're completely right. Your argument's all the same ones that we've seen. It's just the fact that like I've never seen a team collectively get so many of these calls that just go their way, and that's the problem, right? It's not because football is. Unfortunately, you have these calls. It's the fact that I haven't ever seen one go against them. That's the problem.
You know what it also is?
Up. Like they're on a generational run.
It's not even the calls. It's
of
calls that don't exist as well.
Yes.
And you always talk about, hey, this is, you know, the calls went their way. How about the ones that never were? Like, how about the ones that just fucking fairy dust flew away in the middle of the game? Like, those are the calls that are equally impactful. So, they were in this game too. There was holds, there was shit that was going their way, and it's kind of like,
blatant holds again.
Possession. What is the possession game at this point? And like you said, at the end of the day, Josh Allen had the ball in his hands. He had the opportunity to, on that final drive with 3 minutes left, right? Another good stat was basically, you know, we're talking about greatness and the overall greatness, right? And part of that is capitalizing on these fucking moments. And in the last 5 minutes of the game, when there's a drive on the line to win the game, I think it's Patrick Mahomes is 7 of 7 all time on these drives. And that's a big fucking difference. And so Josh Allen didn't quite do that. That play that he attempted to make to Kincaid was ridiculous. But it was about
probably should have been caught.
Probably should have been caught, but it was also about as percentage chance to be caught as
great fucking throw though.
3%.
Like if he makes that catch, that's like iconic.
If he does. Yeah. Oh, he does. Iconic. Absolutely.
And that for Josh Allen to make, it's like just put that ball in
who
the
was it
area.
Back in the day? Eli Manning to fucking who was it?
What in the Super Bowl?
Catch on the head.
David Tyree.
Yeah. Like that would have been the same moment that you have against the literally the elite of that fucking year with the Patriots.
The Patriots,
like that would have been that same. Oh fuck, here we go.
Yeah, game changer for sure.
Yeah, but it didn't. And the other thing was when I saw some of the film breakdown was Spags had basically been faking that blitz on the left hand side the entire game. And then on that final play, fucking set it up, ran it, and it pinched him. It caught him. It caught Josh Allen. He had to scramble. So, to be fair, that's massive.
Please, somebody poach Spagnuolo from the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Like, just hire him as a head coach. I don't care if he doesn't even pan out. Just get him off the damn roster, man. Like,
it's crazy, but I think that's what's wild here. Not to mention, you just hear about Spags more than you hear about Reed. Like, it's crazy. Like, they talk more about him than they talk about Andy Reid on this fucking team. He's incredible, man.
Yeah, and you know what? This game had a lot of back and forth. I think the frustrating thing is, like, how many times you hear football is like a game of inches. It's a game of one play. It's a game of, like, little things. It's really hard to overcome that when all these little things go against you, right? Like, people kind of brush this off, and I'm like, how you got a team that's driving, like, if he gets that fourth down, they're up by 3, and now they're already in field goal range going for another score. Like, this changes the momentum in the game so massively with these calls. They're so pivotal. It's really hard to look at this, and I don't understand how anybody with just a logical mind could say otherwise, you know? And then you have today, Roger Goodell comes out and he says, like, anybody who thinks this is
ridiculous
biased
theory.
Yeah, like, how can you sit there and say something like that? That is the stuff I'm kind of like, okay, what are we really doing here? Because now you got them talking about, the NFL could look into what we're just talking about, you know, electronically spotting the ball now. And it's convenient how these topics arrive now based on the games that have happened and the controversies but to come out and say, as the commissioner of this league, there's, you know, clearly no bias, and this narrative is
well, he's got to protect the integrity. I get it. And honestly, like, it's funny enough. So they had I'm not sure if Manfred said anything, but today there was a pretty big drop. We talked about on the podcast, I don't know how many, probably like 7-8 months ago. And it was about the betting, sports betting in baseball. We tweeted today as well, because Paul Hoberg, right? He actually got, you know, charged for giving his account, account to a friend to then make these bets on the games that he was calling. That's huge. Like, that's a massive thing. So the integrity of the game is in a hyper focus right now, right? And everyone is saying boycott the Super Bowl, and it's only going to get bigger the more that this happens, right?
Absolutely.
And you can brush it with a fine-tooth comb. Like, you can say, hey, there's nothing going on here. We'll show you all the books. We'll show you everything. And it's still always going to go that way because of sports betting, because of how things have been highlighted, and the other like issues that are happening in other leagues around, sports. So,
well, Troy Aikman came out and said it too. I don't know if you heard his interview, but he was saying, like, we need to do right by the fans, and the fact that there's a lot of money being bet on these games. We need to get the officiating right, because you can't have all this money being wagers on sports and shit like this is happening. Like, that's ridiculous. We talked about this earlier in the start of the year, and I said, like, man, I would rather axe sports betting and bring back the integrity of professional sports as is than to have this nonsense going on. And to see all this stuff and back to Roger Goodell and these theories and these things like that, like, we tried this before. You know, the pass interference call that happened in that NFC Championship game between the Rams and the Saints, and then they tried that theory out the next year, and they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything about it, and then they got rid of that. And then what they do this year with the hip drop tackle, and they've barely even called that.
One call.
They're too scared to even make these calls.
Yeah.
This is a problem. And to hear, okay, now they're going to talk about policing potential 15-yard personal foul calls like the slide that Mahomes took. It's going to be the exact same thing. They do this, they throw it out there just to appease us. Nothing then happens, and they continue the cycle with the product. And to me, it's just like, at what point do we really not tune in anymore, right? You know, like, at what point do we go, all right, that's a wrap. I can't. But it's so hard. People can't because they love the game, right?
Yeah, it's a love of the game, man. Like,
and that's sad because
it's an entertainment
they can take
product,
advantage of us.
You know, we're like battered battered fucking people out here that are just
Dude, it's
getting
sad.
abused and keep coming back, and that's just a fucked up thing to say, but it's true.
We just had the first weekend without football, and I felt like that that meme with John Travolta where he's just standing there and he's looking
what are you
around.
doing?
And like, no idea what's going on because I'm so used to watching football on the weekends now.
Yeah, you're just fiending for something. You're like, we got to get these basketball things going.
Bro, I'm betting basketball because I'm like, I was hitting my stride with
we
football.
will be betting basketball. I promise you that, and that's definitely coming. But holy shit, I don't know, man. It's like, it is what it is. I think the product on the field, if not for anything else, is it's probably at its highest point that it's been in a long while for these matchups and these things. And I think we went through a little slump there where we were trying to figure out, okay, Brady against Mahomes and what's coming there, and Brady shut that shit down real quick. So if I ever hear that Brady is
I
not
don't want
the
to
GOAT,
ever hear that narrative.
Fucking
ever.
stop that. I don't know what that's
close,
about,
man.
Like,
not even
we're gonna
close.
talk. I think you're gonna talk like head-to-head bullshit. Let's talk about head-to-head then, because there's two matchups that we can talk about. And Brady was like playing fucking whatever it was after the game in one of his stupid little fucking Instagrams as he's just rolling past.
He was 40 years old too when he did it.
Just dismantling Patrick Mahomes.
There is no fucking argument, dude. Yeah. There's no argument. Brady will forever be the GOAT. You know how hard that's going to be? Mahomes will never be able to surpass that. I don't give a fuck if
even
he gets
then, like this
six Super Bowls in a row.
This 3 conversation never been done, sure, right? But that speaks to more the consistency of the fucking team overall than it does to Mahomes. Because if you're gonna look at that fucking consistency of this team, let's talk about the consistency of this team, because this is the first year that Patrick Mahomes wasn't a Pro Bowl selection, didn't have the numbers to back it up. The last year, he was right on the fucking cusp of also not having that for the first time. Yeah. And on top of that, it was a top 5 fucking defense, top 3 even. So now you got 2 years of top tier defense running this fucking game with what we just called the Hall of Fame fucking defensive coordinator. Yeah. And we're going to put this on Patrick Mahomes as the godsend that is sending this team to the fucking Super Bowl every year. Like, let's be real about the numbers here and actually look at it holistically. And then compare that to what was fucking Brady's era. Yeah. And like Brady went to another fucking team and was like, yo, listen, what's up? Like,
I'm here too. It's that Brady took, and I'm not one to speak on behalf of Brady. I hated the fucking Patriots. We both
Agreed.
did. Everybody here hated the Patriots, but I saw a tweet and it was just like, it was something about, man, like watching what Mahomes is doing right now really makes me appreciate Brady and what the Patriots were back then a lot more, because they were actually a great team, right? Like, now you're just getting these guys who are getting babied through all this nonsense, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is crazy. So I appreciate the Brady era a lot more now. I have a lot more respect for him. Sure, did they get a few calls go their way? Absolutely. But nothing to this degree. Nothing to this degree. But you know what? You know what my theory is here? I think it just goes back to Taylor Swift, man. I'll be completely honest with you. I'll be completely honest with you, man. I think it's so when I look at this and I'm going into this game and I'm trying to put together the storylines, I did the same thing last year, and I took that bet, Kansas City and Baltimore, and I was like, you know what? They want the Taylor Swifties in the fucking Super Bowl. It gets the views, it gets the ratings. They want that storyline. Lo and behold, they made it. Rest is history. What are they doing this year? It's more evident now than ever before, because one, the Chiefs aren't as dominant, so they need a little bit more help this year. Yeah. And I think they wanted more than anything. I don't know if they're going to necessarily lay the same bias in the Super Bowl, but I think they just wanted them to get there in the first place so that they could get the ratings. Taylor Swift is there, and it's just for the product and for the game. And I honestly think at the end of the day, that's all it's been about. And once this is gone, hopefully Travis Kelce sails off into the sunset here, takes Taylor Swift with him, and then that can be over and done. And I honestly don't think the Chiefs get the same bias that they do once that narrative is gone. I think the NFL moves on to their next pony, and they run the same shit, and they figure out who's going to be the team. Okay, we're done with the Chiefs narrative. Now let's bring in the next team that's going to rival them. and we're going to give them some wins and prop them up. And I do honestly think the league it's scary like that. So safe to say I will be taking money line Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I just don't see how you can bet against it.
No, it's hard not to. But honestly, like I think it's just ridiculous. I did look up some stuff. I think we can probably get into this because I just want to talk about this. I got to get this off my chest.
Oh hell yeah, let's talk about it. That's what we're here for.
Like, let's bring this back to the Brady era. Let's bring this back to the conversation surrounding the GOAT. Right? We'll get into these. Obviously what's up and coming here. But we obviously wanted to review these last games, but. This narrative, man, it's pissing me off. I get the 3-time situation. I get to do that. We obviously just covered that a little bit, but like let's talk some numbers. And I did it on both sides. Okay, I did it on both sides. I looked at both sides. I want to see.
What angle are you taking here? I'm curious
Mahomes
because
and Brady
statistically in the first whatever years. Yeah. Mahomes has the better stats overall.
Oh, he's looking great, right?
Look at the eras. And then you look at the average points scored era to now, like it's different circumstances.
Yeah, there are different circumstances. I think what we're talking about in general is just there's obviously a career longevity that Brady has and will forever have probably over any other quarterback in the history of the NFL, right? What also comes with that is the obscene success that this guy has had across so many fucking, like, literally generations of football players.
Yeah.
And I think, hold on, let me find that one, because that one's actually a really good fucking one. So, obviously, as we know, how many times has he played in the year? 22 years, right?
You talking about, like, how many years he made the Super Bowl?
Yeah. 22?
See, that's a tough one to argue right now, because Patrick Mahomes has been there. Technically, he has a higher percentage currently.
He does, right? But what is this?
That's fucked. The guy has never not played in a championship game. That's fucked.
His dominance is definitely crazy, right? But let's go and say, hey, so these are the stats for Patrick Mahomes. So let's talk about them because they are solid, okay? And we'll kind of go through with the challenging argument, okay? So he has a career passer rating as of January 27, 2025, because this is when I ran this, of 106.8, and that is the highest in NFL history, and that is absurd, okay? First quarterback to lead. Is this
just playoffs? Is this overall?
Overall.
Just
first
everything?
Quarterback to lead in the league in passing yards and win both MVP and Super Bowl MVP in the same season. Okay? Solid. Fastest quarterback to reach 25,000 career passing yards. That was in 83 games. Playoff production. He's the first quarterback to average over 300 passing yards per playoff game, which is kind of crazy. It's a little fucking nuts. As of January 27th, career playoff record of 13-3, including 5 consecutive AFC Championship appearances at home. That's fucking solid. You get the home advantage. We know what Arrowhead is like. Yep. That's a big factor. Has led the Chiefs to 3 consecutive Super Bowls, obviously, potentially, could be winning back-to-back-to-back. Hasn't happened yet, but it's here. The opportunity is here. And most playoff games with a passer rating above 120, which is 8 times. So, all that to be said, this guy is a playoff god, right? When it comes down to it, he definitely shows up in the playoffs.
Yep.
Has won all 3 playoff games when trailing by double digits, including an overcoming a 24-0 deficit in the Texans in 2019. And 44-20 regular season record, 688 in games where the Chiefs allowed 24-plus points. Just shows that this guy can fucking shoot out and do whatever the fuck he wants, right?
Now, wait a second here. He also choked a 24-3 lead against the Bengals in the championship game. So we're just going to put that on the board here.
Let's throw it out there. Yeah.
Just throw that out there.
Has led the NFL in scoring drives percentage in 4 seasons, including 2023, where 56% of Chiefs drives ended in points. Most combined TDs, passing plus rushing in players' first 100 games. And he's defeated 8 different MVP quarterbacks in the playoffs. Obviously, including your boy and Josh Allen. Now he hasn't had a
MVP quarterbacks?
not MVP type, but MVP type quarterbacks.
Okay,
yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Elite quarterbacks.
Elite quarterbacks, I should say. So
correct.
And he's 3-0 in overtime games, which is important.
In the playoffs?
Yeah.
No. Lost to Burrow in the championship game in overtime.
You're right. You're right.
Come on, bro.
2-1.
Listen. Just, acknowledge that. But the only active fucking quarterback in this league to beat this fucker is Joey goddamn Burrow. So, since he just needs to do whatever the hell they need to do to make that team be better and give them a shot, because it's coming back. He's going to be the one to do it again. But, yeah, buddy, you could go on all day with these stats.
Let's switch it.
But go to Brady, and then his is probably a little bit different.
So, what quarterback has won in 3 different decades?
Tom Brady.
2000s, 2010s, and 2020s.
So a Super Bowl in 3 different...
Super Bowl in 3 different decades.
That's wild.
Unfucking heard of. I don't even know if we have to go further, but we will. But that alone is just, absurd. Number one.
Brady's got ones that, and this is, before you even dive into this.
Yeah.
Okay. The first argument is Brady beat him with 2 different teams.
Yep.
In the AFC Championship game, and then in the fucking Super Bowl. Not only just beat him.
Yeah.
Handed him his ass on a fucking
40-plus-year-old.
Demolished him. Right? Yeah. So there's that. That can never be done. You're never going to be able to. He's always going to have a losing record against him in the playoffs. Always. That's how it's going to be. And this story. That's head-to-head. And that's, you're talking prime young player versus 40-year-old quarterback. So
43. If you're talking real shit.
Incredible. So you got that. You got the decade thing. Not only that, Brady left his team, went to another one, and won a Super Bowl in the first year.
There. Yeah.
How are you ever going to top that?
Yeah.
No shot.
So, literally. So, obviously, he has the most career wins as a starting quarterback. 251 in the regular season, 35 in the playoffs. He has the winning percentage of 76.9% in the playoffs. And that, by the way, is better than most teams' all-time playoff records. That alone. Insane. I don't know if you're going to talk GOAT status, but listen, my one fucking player who decided to, play more than your team has ever played in the fucking playoffs before has a better winning record.
Insane.
Most playoff game-winning drives with 14. Now, obviously, we talked about Mahomes is coming up on that quick, so that is interesting. That's a good argument, counter-argument. Only quarterback to lead a team to 10 Super Bowl appearances. That alone is fucked up. Mm-hmm. We're just going to talk about LeBron James and the GOAT status of how many times he went.
Yeah. So this is just solidified. For Mahomes? This will be
5, I believe, yeah. And pretty fucking good throughput on that one as well. But defeated 27 different starting quarterbacks in the playoffs out of the total 35 games that he had. Yep. That alone is also ridiculous. And holds the record for the most quarterback playoff comebacks with 9. And then if we're just going to talk overall career in the postseason and in general, career playoff passing yards with 13,488 touchdowns. And second place, and this is where the Tiger Woods shit comes into play, where you're like, oh, only Tiger Woods, if Scottie Scheffler decided to play for another, 480 seasons, maybe he'll touch this. Is the same conversation. The second place person is next to him, right? 5,000 yards behind and 35 touchdowns behind. So no one is coming close to any of this shit unless they have the career longevity and success that this guy had, not only in the playoffs, but as well as the proficiency to which he played. So we're talking about Mahomes being the playoff king. Sorry, there's one guy that's better than you, and that is Tom Brady, and that will be the case forever and always. As far as I'm concerned. And that's not even talking about his record seasons that he had.
No, there's no fucking
we're not even
comparison.
talking about this shit.
It's just recency bias from people.
It's narratives, man.
It's narratives they're trying to drive home. I don't know. Does this do something for the league? Like
They just
establishing
have to
another
push
guy
it.
like this?
It's
like,
the same
is
shit
this
that
a
we're
thing?
talking right off the hop, right? With Luka Doncic being that guy, but they can't even fucking. I think honestly, the LA media and everything that's going to come from that will now insert Luka Doncic into that conversation over the next fucking 10 years, and that's just because they need someone to talk about, but they wouldn't want to talk about him in Dallas, right? And this is what they do. They just try to find someone that can be their fucking king, and they try to elevate that to that status because the league needs that kind of competitive narrative to be like, oh, somebody's going to knock off the person, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think they
what was
need,
the
like,
Jim
the
Nance
villain,
thing?
right?
Is the kingdom going to fall? Like, fuck off. Like, it's like, seriously.
I think that's what it is. They need that. So this is what they're doing, right? And this is why I'm telling you, a lot of this is crafted. It's crafted by the league. They're building this motherfucker up because everybody hates these guys. They're building them up just so they can tear them down.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what they're going to do is they're just pushing this thing as far as it can go. And this is what we're seeing right now. But to maintain that, like even Brady had the gaps in his career where it's like struggled to get back there, struggled to win one in that stretch, and then it took time. Like this is... But I don't just with the way that things are tilted, and I don't know how this team would lose. You know how hard it is to win a game against these guys when half the time you're fighting against them and the refs, and it's tough.
Yeah,
it's
say
really tough
right,
to
like
play.
Possession wins football games, and calls matter, and when you're getting all the possession opportunity and you're not getting a lot of calls called against you, or all the calls that are also going the other way, and teams are, giving up yards and giving up these big moments, and that, worthy catch is so iconic to that, where it's like, hey, like we review this and we come away with this guy having possession somehow of the ball with his one hand when the other guy's hugging his hand and the ball.
Yes.
And somehow that ball ends up on the ground, by the way, but also possessed by that player. That's the question that everyone's going to look at and be like, now you're handing this ball to them at the 6-yard line.
Yeah.
And what is going to happen? Well, we know what's going to happen. Sorry, like when you give someone who is considered great, right, and should be considered great with all of the success that they've had over this time, right, he's going to come through in those moments every single time. So it's like you're giving like fucking, I don't know. I don't even know what the best analogy to describe this is. You're giving the kid the fucking candy, like right in front of his face, and saying, have a time. Like, it's all there in front of us, and we're watching, and we're like, all right, like there you go, 6 yards. What are they gonna do? They're gonna get stopped? Yeah, fucking right.
Yeah.
Like, good luck.
Yeah, it's tough, man. We all just want a fair playing field, like, sucks to see.
Like their defense is winning these games as much as it's not, right? Yeah. Like I think that's a huge thing. This is the first time in how many games all season long that they put up 30 points. Like they had to do it to win this game. But like their defense has been fucking incredible this season.
Yeah.
So it's it's wild, but it is what it is.
It is fucking wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, here we are, 3 consecutive Super Bowls with Kansas City, and you can talk about boycotting it all you want. We love the game. We love the 31 teams in it, and all of us hate Kansas City. I think at this point that's what it is, man. Like, nobody wants to see this team win. It's just them.
We're literally rooting for Philly to win this fucking game.
Who wants to cheer for Philly? Not me. Nobody wants to cheer.
Like, I'm wearing this because I won it in a fucking bar one time back in the day, and that's the only reason I have this jersey. But like, ridiculous that when we're coming down to this. But I'm a Philly fan on Sunday.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
We're all Philly fans.
You can't I'll never forget, and maybe it shuts me up on Sunday. Maybe I go, fuck, maybe Patrick Mahomes is that guy. I don't know, because it happened, funny enough, with the other guy that I'm talking about, with Brady, win that Atlanta game, and I was talking the most amount of shit in a bar. And I've never shut up harder in my entire life and shook a guy's hand to be like, I'm going to fucking eat this, and I'll remember this day. Because you can't be talking that much shit. Watch the GOAT fucking come back and win that game and be like, all right, like, stop talking. You're gonna quit now. Like, don't ever speak up again when it comes to this guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of those moments with Brady. Unfortunately, that sucked. Hopefully,
and in that game, I can't honestly say, oh shit, it was the refs. It wasn't. Yeah. Atlanta just fucking choked.
No, you couldn't say shit.
Brady went on an absolute all-time GOAT run, and I was just like, he's just picking this team apart right now. Yeah. So it's like every pass that made, I was like, fuck. Then they started attempting. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, 13. Oh, okay. This is getting a little closer.
Yeah.
And then I shut up.
We just don't want that same narrative this weekend. Please, yeah. Eagles.
I hope not.
Help us out.
I hope Saquon. This team's defense will be the deciding factor again. So let's see how this goes. I really don't hope it comes down to the refs because I think that's going to just break shit apart for this league. They're just going to be so fucking high-strung on this. Yeah, everyone's on edge to see this shit. They don't want to, and like the NFL probably wants it because it's just going to have people talking about it. But it's just integrity, right?
Even bad publicity is publicity, right?
Good publicity.
So, yeah, it's going to be tough, but I think let's hope it's a good game. Let's hope the Eagles come out on top and we can shut this up. I'll be the happiest person in the world that happens. I'll be screaming and shouting. I'm probably going to put half my bankroll on the Chiefs' money line here. But
might as well.
That might be the happiest person in the world, even if I lose that amount of money. I don't even care.
Yeah. Like, let's put it all on red on roulette. Like, let's just fucking, how can you not?
Riding it to the grave at this point.
Someone posted that on one of our posts and was just like the guy literally putting all his chips on red, and I was like, seriously, like I've been doing it all year. Yeah. I understand that works. Like if you don't, you're ridiculous. Like you should be putting like what was it, $4.3 million on? I think it was some team. I think it was Philly to beat Carolina that game, and it got a little tight. Like that guy should be putting all of his money on the Chiefs this weekend.
The Chiefs,
because I don't see how you can't and look and be like, it's probably going to happen.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into kind of looking at the prop bets, all the specials going on. I've kind of been dabbling already. There's some ones I want to lock in there. We got a whole card to look at for the big game coming up. So we're going to get to that later on in the week for you. Get another show going. Talk specifically Super Bowl props, narratives we're going to dive into, and what we think can come about in the big game. So aside from that, Chappy, you got anything else you want to say to the viewers?
No, just keep following us on all our socials. So obviously Chappy Bengals, but when it comes to Twitter, we're actually the Play Action Pod. So give us a follow there, see what we're talking about as we send out different things throughout the week and daily. That's it.
You guys hit the bell. Appreciate you guys tuning in again. We'll be back at it later on in the week. Hopefully have that out to you guys Friday prior to the weekend. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Appreciate it. Chappy and Bengals out.
Easy.